Come on, give me a hand, Williethel. What's wrong? Can't you handle it yourself? No, I can't handle it myself. Let's go first. Okay. Are you ready? Okay. She made America laugh like Ethel Mertz in I Love Lucy, but behind the camera, Vivian Vance was at peace. She wasn't just a report. She was real. Why did she really fail the person some people thought was her smartest and most beautiful friend? And you know what? To this day, some people still think of me as Miss Fred Mertz. Follow us as we find out the real reason behind Vivian Vance's failure for William Frawley. Vivian Vance. Vivian Vance was born on January 26, 1909, in Cherryvale, Kansas. She is the second of 6 children in her family. Her birth name is Vivian Roberta Jones. Even growing up, she had it easy because she was an actress. During her youth, she was interested in music and acting. She also joined school plays and local plays. However, her path was not easy. Vivian's situation with her family, especially her mother, is difficult. Her mother informs her that she does not agree with her goals and thinks that acting is not the right path for a young girl. But Vivian does not let that stop her. She continued on to New Mexico, Albuquerque, during her return. There, she began working seriously in the market actress and doing songs in local actors. Eventually, she went to New York City. That's where she really started to become famous. Vivian sang songs in many local productions in the 1930s and 1940s. Her major credits include singing The Turtle, Skylark, and Hooray for What. Her mission is clear. She has a strong acting idea, great acting timing, and a voice that is attuned to market actors. Though she has found strength in actors, she has changed to actors. Years later, she was the regular in the cast. But all that changed when she was introduced to a voice that would forever define her life. Ethel Mertz on I Love Lucy. Vivian Vance's performance of I Love Lucy happened a little strangely. During that time, Lucille Ball and Daisy Arness were getting ready to stage a parade that would become part of a legal drama. They needed someone to help Lucy's best friend and friend, Ethel Mertz. It took someone fun, lovable, and capable to hold her own around Lucille Ball. Lucille Ball had a big story to tell. When she met Vivian Vance, she saw something special. Even when others questioned the choice, thinking Vance might be too cheerful or too young, Lucille saw her as the right one. Vance won the mission, and the two quickly made a serious peace and friendship. In I Love Lucy, Vivian wooed Ethel Mertz, Lucy Ricardo's loving but lovable friend. Her wife, Fred Mertz, is played by William Frawley. The Mertz are the servants of Ricardo's men, and often get in the way of Lucy's futile schemes. Ethel is often the voice of reason, but not always. Occasionally, she would step into Lucy's plans and add a plan of her own. Vivian's alter ego, Ethel Mertz, made peace with the hotel. She was approachable, cheerful, and came to the land. While Lucy was the dreamer, Ethel was the smart, intelligent friend who could be said to have made Vivian Vance a household name. I Love Lucy was a huge hit and changed the economy, but while it brought Vance glory, it also brought hardship. Vivian Vance's personal life was not as joyful as her on-screen performances. She was married 4 times, and many of those relationships were difficult or short-lived. She often ended up heartbroken or sad, and that made her miserable. Vance also suffered from health problems. She dealt with grief in her life. It's not often that it becomes apparent during those times. Thanks. The issue of intimacy and the demands of cultural technology have presented her difficulties. There is also the problem of seeing notice. In the movie, Vance looks like an older, more attractive man in real life. Ethel Mertz was called a kindergarten girl, even though Vance was still a young person before the movie started. That treated how people saw her. Vivian was very well received in this picture. It pains her when the culture tech begins to contact Ethel and treat her like she treats real people. In Hollywood, where young often treat culture tech, this is a worry. She feels that the culture, though complete, may hurt her when she has the opportunity to treat culture tech later. In the midst of hardship, Vance remained a strong man. She did not let her suffering show on film, and she always gave her best in every scene. After I Love, Lucy ended, Vivian Vance found it difficult to escape the shadow of Ethel Mertz. She continued to work on the film, appearing on the Lucy for a few months. However, she could never leave the status that had made her famous. Vance wanted to tackle more cultural technology. She wanted to make the movie, or maybe come back on the movie. But the actors and the movies often saw her as just Ethel. The military people guessed she was cheerful, simple, and always dealt with darkness. This is very disappointing for someone who has so much to offer. She also feels like her status is being used against her. While Lucille Ball is allowed to be fun and important to the story, Vance is relegated to a fun situation, not developed in the same way. In the film, Vance agrees that this is hard for her. Very hard. She wants to be seen not just as someone else, but as the real her, with life and depth. She keeps working. She acted in movies, and had a few small films, but nothing matched her success in I Love Lucy. After that, Vivian Vance moved to Connecticut with her last husband, John Dodds. She lived a quiet life around the sun and focused on her health and well-being. However, she was struck down by a serious illness in 1970. She died in 1970, at the age of 70. Vivian Vance gave the film one of its finest men, but her interlude was filled with natural triumphs, big dreams, and painful moments. Next, we'll take a closer look at William Frawley, her man, and find out why things didn't work out between them. William Frawley. William Clement Frawley was born on February 26, 1887, in Burlington, Iowa. She grew up in a Catholic and center-centered family. From an early age, she attended missions, but it wasn't clear that the situation would become her lifeline. Before she started focusing on her work, Frawley held a number of normal jobs, including that of a reporter and a professor. However, luck always got the better of her. In the past 20 months, Frawley has found her way into the world of vaudeville. Vaudeville is a loose style of live performance that can be described as song, song, and song. She has been jamming with her brothers for a long time, jamming song and end song. Eventually, she began to assemble the line and then assemble with the song and her friend Edna Louise Bruyette. She joined with her in 1914. She joined with her in 1914. She assembled with her in 1914. She gathered in 1914. She gathered with her in 1914. It made him develop himself more, and by the 1920s and 1930s, he was appearing in Broadway productions and gaining more recognition. His stage success helped him make the leap to Hollywood. In the early 1930s, Frawley began working in films, just as the movie industry was growing fast. He quickly became a reliable character actor, someone who didn't usually play the lead role, but added depth and color to a story. With his sweet voice, wit, and no-nonsense approach, Frawley was well-suited to playing difficult people, difficult neighbors, and ordinary friends. When I Love Lucy came out, William Frawley had appeared in over 100 films. His film career included such talkies as Miracle on 34th Street, where he played a teacher, and Going My Way, where he appeared alongside Bing Crosby. He wasn't often a talkie, but he was always a good talkie, grounded, down-to-earth, and often catchy. In his films, in the 1940s, his life was easy. Hollywood movies had begun to see him as a difficult man, just because of his drinking problem. Many movies were afraid of him because he had a serious, unpredictable personality, especially if he had a drinking problem. But when Desi Arnaz and Lucille Ball came together for I Love Lucy in 1951, Frawley saw an opportunity. He heard about the film and wanted the part of Fred Mertz. the vain but loving man who would be dating Vivian Vance's love interest, Ethel. Frawley thought he was just the right guy for the job, and he contacted Despised to be his love interest. At first, the film's production was uncertain. They knew Frawley's finances and were worried that his drinking might cause trouble. But Despised was willing to give him a chance. Arnaz had laid out a clear line. If Frawley ever missed a good day or got drunk, he would be shot immediately. Frawley agreed. To everyone's surprise, Frawley showed up on time and became an employee. He knew this was his last chance, and he didn't want to ruin it. He picked up the character of Fred Mertz and did it freely. His sly, witty laugh and his likability with everyone in the film made him a likable character. Fred Mertz became one of the most popular characters in the 1950s film industry. His film, the pictures are interesting and offbeat. William Frawley was a recluse. He never got involved with anyone else after his previous marriage in 1900. He was known to be very private about his private life, and much of his background, if he had any, was kept out of the public eye. He lived alone, and much of his life was spent on his work and his image. One of the most difficult parts of Frawley's life is his drinking. He has a long-standing problem with drinking, which has caused him trouble in his life. During his time in Hollywood before I Love Lucy, several films stopped using him because of his condition. There are stories of him getting beaten up, flipping out on set, and having trouble working, often resorting to drinking water. However, it's important to note that during the time of I Love Lucy, Frawley was reportedly very studious. He didn't drink at the table, and he watched Desi Arnaz's right. But he continued to drink during his time. He was often seen at the table, and he planned to spend the night drinking alone or with friends. His drinking problem was definitely destroying his condition. He also does not approach the status of meeting. He has a bad relationship with Vivian Vance, and he is not known to be handsome or easy. However, he is respected by his allies for his talent and working status. After I Love Lucy ended in 1957, Frawley found new work quickly. In 1960, he was cast in My Three Sons, a family drama directed by Fred McMurray. In the film, Frawley played Uncle O'Casey, his young father and caretaker. Once again, he became an easy character and became an easy part of the film. Frawley was in My Three Sons for 5 months. However, his health began to fail. Years of drinking and aging took their toll on him. He began forgetting lines, moving quickly, and appearing ill. In 1965, he left the film due to health problems and was replaced by actor William Demarest. Not long after leaving the film, Frawley's health continued to deteriorate. He suffered from hearing loss and other hearing problems. In March 1966, just a week after his 79th birthday, William Frawley collapsed on the street in Hollywood after watching the film. He was taken to hospital but collapsed before he could suffer. His death was met with varying degrees of respect. While many in the industry respect his life and focus on his condition, others remember him more for his predicament and his association with films, especially Vivian Vance. In his case, William Frawley left an impact on history. His problem is part of the American pop culture. See, now you see how easy it is? Everything's going to be okay? And his work helped make the early days of the film. He may not have been a perfect man, but he was a memorable man and brought one of the most special situations in film to life. William Frawley's plan was a talented, difficult one, and a second chance helped a lot. Next, Vivian Vance and William Frawley couldn't stand each other. When I Love Lucy started in 1951, Vivian Vance and William Frawley were just two talented people who came together to play the movie. First, their status is clearly stated. They did not know each other before the film, and they were both research students. According to Greg Oppenheimer, son of the film's producer, Jess Oppenheimer, they had even met before, But it doesn't take long for things to start happening. One of the sources of attack is Vivian Vance's difficulty with the decision to act. She turned 40 before the film began. Frawley, for us, turned 60 before they did. That means a difficult 20-plus years between them. To make matters worse, the film treats Fred and Ethel as a family dealing with long-standing differences. Vance found it hard to believe the audience would agree with them as a family. She reported that no one would believe I faced that bastard. That became Frawley, and he didn't like it. Frawley was known for his heart and not taking kindly to hardship, especially from younger women. When he heard Vance's response, it made him angry. He couldn't contain his disappointment and started talking about Vance again. Over time, the confrontations turned into something more. Frawley would confront Vance and call her names and object to her powers. One of the accusations became that she didn't like singing and had no business putting in song. He also doesn't like her trying to introduce their song numbers. Frawley thinks she's becoming her, and that frustrates him even more. Over time, Vance becomes more and more frustrated by his condition. The situation between them became, and their status quickly went from being her work to being an opponent. I told him to meet us at the American Express Center. That was fine. Hello? Their condition is not just the song. It is the condition, spirit, and ability of the subject in a quick job. Over time, the situation between Vance and Frawley became a struggle. While they were still face-to-face in songs, they often faced each other in front of each other, and occasionally on camera. During the situation, Vance began to face off by calling Frawley Old Fat Freddy. This name was used in conversation and in her songs. Frawley quickly hit back. In the songs, he had predicted that Ethelby, introduced in the song as having a name like a doorknob, was the opposite of Vance. These kinds of confrontations became the norm. Frawley would go out of his way to confront Vance, and Vance would respond to Vance. No one held back when responding to another. Their talk is not just normal. Their talk is not just normal. Their talk is not just normal. Normal. Their talking is not just normal. Their talking is not just normal. Their talk is not just normal. Their talk is not just helium that ale at Sunshine Gem, and there are few options to conserve energy. One idea is to create a spin-off series focusing on Fred and Ethel Mertz. The plan was conceptual. The characters were already very popular, and a movie around them could easily be pitched to you. Why did you have to give up, Lucy? That was the first time you stopped talking since we got married. William Frawley was very strong with the idea. He loved playing Fred and was ready to continue working. Vivian Vance, however, immediately stopped the idea. She wanted nothing to do with Frawley beyond the first film. She also did not want to continue playing Ethel. Vance was devastated by the judgment. And the idea of spending years looking like Fred Mertz's wife didn't sit well with her. When she learned about the spin-off plan, she stopped the idea, even though it would have been worth it. Her choice judged Frawley. She felt judged and judged. For him, the judgment was about more than just the movie. It was natural. He thought Vance was standing in the way of a good opportunity by choice. According to reports, he never responded to her. He reportedly called her into the case years later. His film, Daisy Arnaz, found out in the middle. He defended Frawley and helped Vance, and now he had to deal with their judgment. Arnaz handled the situation carefully. He respected the men, but knew they would never work together again. So he put the movie idea on hold and focused on new plans with Lucille Ball. Their situation had become a great game in Hollywood. Oh my God, that was a minute ago. Come on, come on, come on, Fred. Many actors and actresses announced their evaluations. It was not a secret within the company. Even after I Love Lucy ended, the evaluations between them were still fresh. Vivian Vance and William Frawley made for one of the most memorable couples in film. But in the film, they couldn't be family. Another conversation. Vivian Vance and William Frawley will always be remembered as Fred and Ethel Mertz, the memorable couple who lived next door to Lucy and Ricky Ricardo in I Love Lucy. But behind the scenes, their system was nothing like what you saw on the lock. Their system became one of the most memorable in the great game. But right now, there are many stories surrounding what happened and who was really at fault. This section explores other parts of the story, what people close to them have said, and how their system became part of their history. In addition to the months and months that have passed since Vivian Vance and William Frawley were treated together. Many people say anyone has treated each other out there. Some say one person has answered to the mind more than the others. One of the people with a high voice in this conversation is Daisy Arnaz, who is sharing a product. In this exercise, Arnaz reads that the reason contains many of them by Frawley. According to Arnaz, William Frawley had trouble with Vivian Vance from the start. In that film, Frawley is reported to have said, "Where did you find this? She can't sing, she surprised me." So Frawley could see that Vance had a bad idea almost immediately and wasn't afraid to share it with others. Frawley didn't stop there. He continued to report on Vance's song, her song, and even how she conducted herself. He seemed to think she was interesting. Even though Vance was known for being a hard worker, she acted out. He reported that he didn't like her acting out the song or the lyrics, which he didn't think was her place. And the other people on the set, for her, said she didn't like the song. Greg Oppenheimer, whose father, Jess, was the producer of I Love Lucy. "Hurry! Excuse me, ma'am. Excuse me, sir." Vance was upset that people believed she could get back together with someone much older. She used to say, "No one would believe I would get back together with that old person." When Frawley heard this, it created a song that came back and never died. But then there's the song about Vance not liking Frawley. In fact, for Desi Arnaz, she never felt comfortable with him. It's a disappointing choice, especially when you remember all the songs Vance has said about Frawley over the years. Could it be that her songs were just part of her voice? Or that she was trying to tone down the sadness? These options make the truth harder to come by. Some say Frawley was the real enemy, while others say Vance was as helpful as she was. But in reality, the students must have had strong feelings about each other, and the students didn't want to react. In the final peaceful years, it became clear that there would never be peace between Vivian Vance and William Frawley. They would not make peace with time. In fact, Frawley continued to be irascible and difficult about Vance until the very end. One of the best examples of this was the following year when Frawley made the film My Three Sons. Fellow Tim Considine filmed the film with Frawley and shared a story about what Vivian Vance was really like. In the film, Frawley responded by calling her a difficult daughter. That story failed everyone on the set, especially by the location of meeting her. That story failed everyone on the set. That story failed from the two of them. That story actually failed while by Vaux and said, "Champagne for everybody." Whether the story is entirely true or somewhat misleading is unclear, but it does address the long suffering she endured for him. There is no report of Vance making a spontaneous statement about grief or response after Frawley's death. She did not speak kindly of him in interviews, and there is no report that they ever made peace. For the weapons, the suffering seems long in the end. It's important to remember that none of them are perfect. Frawley's story of suffering and the story of suffering certainly added fuel to the fire of death. During that time, Vance's story about Frawley's age and condition certainly caused real distress. The story may not have been calm, but it certainly wasn't a one-sided story. One of the most disappointing things about the story between Vivian Vance and William Frawley was that they were both fleeing the country at the start of the show. In I Love Lucy, Fred and Ethel Mertz were a believable couple. Their heartbreak story was funny, endearing, and part of what made the show so great. The show loved them and never imagined that the people they influenced couldn't treat each other in real life. It wasn't until years later, when the backstories began to surface, that the show learned the truth. For many show hosts, the story was painful. How could two people who had such seemingly good experiences actually treat each other? The truth made the show look at the show in a new light. Many have even said that their real lives have made them more imaginative. Because Fred and Ethel often treated each other on the show, the story between Vance and Frawley may have overlapped their real lives. Their stories of pain, and their stories of suffering have overlapped because, in many ways, they treated each other. Today, their story is remembered as part of the TV experience. The story of suffering has treated the experience of I Love Lucy, reminding us that what we see on the screen doesn't always treat what happens behind the scenes. For you and the experience, the story of suffering has treated each other. If you like this video about TV experience, please subscribe to this video and subscribe to our channel. And let us know which side you are on, Vivian's or William's.